Welcome to the Midlife Manifesto, where we are embracing the twists and turns and transformations of midlife. I am Arlene Scholten, your host and fellow traveler on this crazy journey. So if you're looking to reinvent yourself, rediscover your passions, or just make sense of this beautifully messy phase of your life, you're in the right place. I will be interviewing experts on a number of different topics, anything midlife, whether it be your health, wellness, perimenopause, relationships, rediscovering yourself, new adventures, career shifts, raising teenagers, you name it. We're going to discuss it all right here. So grab your favorite drink, settle in, and let's get real about midlife, because it's more than a phase. It's our time to thrive. We can do this together, so join me on my journey. It's crazy, but let's make it some fun. Hello, everyone, and welcome to my podcast, which is the Midlife Manifesto, where we are redefining aging. And today I am very excited to have a friend of mine. She's also my triathlon coach, Fran Recchia, on with us today. So if you're not into triathlon, if you're not interested in Ironman, please stay and listen, because a lot of what we're going to be talking about is mindset, which you can apply to any area of your life, whether it be parenting, your business, any other sport that you're doing. So please listen, because we are going to be inspired by Fran. So welcome to the podcast.
Hi, it's so good to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, no problem. So before we talked, we realized that we have a few more things in common, like your artwork on the back wall. I also have a brainwash, and we're one of three girls. So and
we were
both
destined
love
to be
triathlon.
together.
Yes. So just to tell you a little bit, Fran and I have known each other for years, probably just through school and friends, and I think rugby actually is when I probably first met you and your boys. My youngest or my middle was there.
It was also a CrossFit class.
Maybe, yeah. I think I went to one, and then I couldn't lift my arms after, and Harris kept crying. So yeah, possibly. So I don't think I went back.
That was a long time ago.
That was a long time ago. I don't think baby Harris liked CrossFit. So
I think you were pregnant.
Oh, possible.
I think you just got pregnant. Definitely.
Oh, that is very possible.
You hadn't had Harris when I first met you.
Okay. I did try to go to a CrossFit class with Harris in his car seat, and he was such a good baby, aside from when we went to CrossFit, and he would just scream. So that was short-lived. I did try. So what I want to dive into today is a little bit about your midlife journey through triathlon, and now you travel the world doing Ironman.
Mm-hmm.
So tell us a little, and you're also ex-military, aren't you?
I am, yeah.
So tell us a little bit, how did you end up where you are right now?
I suppose the best place to start very briefly is the beginning. I was always a sporty kid at school, okay academically, went off to university. I was the youngest of three girls, went to university, did a sports-based degree and then a postgrad in teaching, but decided not to go into teaching and went to Sandhurst and did a year at Sandhurst and then commissioned into the Royal Artillery back in the late 90s, and had an absolutely amazing time, and I fulfilled so many dreams in my younger years, and sport was always a massive part of that. And then, like anything, I met my husband, we got married, and then he left the army, and then I followed, leaving the army after Chris. And then before we knew it, we had Louis and Finley, and we've got two amazing boys now at university, age 21 and 19. And it was really when my life was kind of put on hold a little bit, because I've always had this view that you get one chance to raise your kids and you've got to do it right. You don't get a second chance. And Chris had a big job commuting to London from York every day. And I temporarily retired to bring the kids up. And that's what I did. And I had these amazing 10 years of bringing the boys up. And I was lucky enough to go to every rugby match, hockey match, parents' evening, you name it. And whilst Chris focused on his career, but I always knew that one day I'd have my time to come back into doing something that I loved. And really, when they were probably about 10, 8, 9, 10, it's probably when I met you, and I thought I've got to get my fitness back, because that had been put on hold as well. And I started CrossFit, and my fitness came back. And then I randomly decided to do a sprint triathlon. I could always swim, because when we were kids, me and my sisters used to go swimming all the time because your parents didn't have to take you then. You could just, there was no health and safety. You could just go swimming. And it was brilliant. Yeah. And I could ride my bike, and I was a fairly decent runner. And so I did this sprint triathlon, and I thought, I really like this. I like the discipline of it. And I suppose being ex-military, discipline has always been a part of my life and my DNA. And I then decided I'm going to do a half Ironman. And that was probably about 7 or 8 years ago. And it was based on, we'd been through a pretty tough time as a family because my mum had become poorly, and we'd lost my mum quite tragically, and before her time. So I thought, I'm going to raise some money and I'm going to do a local half Ironman. Did I know much about the practicalities of doing a half Ironman, a 70.3? Absolutely not. Was it on a bit of a wing and a prayer? Absolutely. And I did it. And actually, we did the same one because it was the
I was going to say, was that the sundown?
Yeah, it was. It was the same one. Yeah. And I did it. And it was quite a decent time for very little training.
Yeah.
And that was when the bug happened, and I thought, I'm going to do a full Ironman. My husband had no interest in doing this at all. He was happy just doing his cycling. And so I trained for my first full Ironman. And again, I didn't have a coach. I kind of did it on what I thought I should be doing. I kind of roughly followed a generic program. And I did my first Ironman, and I absolutely loved it. Did I question my life choices at some parts of it on the bike? Because I didn't choose an easy one. I chose the UK Ironman, which had
Which one was that Bolton?
Well, that was Bolton.
Yeah, okay.
They don't do the full anymore, but it was, I don't know, 9,500 feet of climbing. And at that point, I didn't realize that all Ironman events aren't all equal. You get flat ones and you get hilly ones, and I'd chosen a really hilly hard one on really challenging roads, and I did it. And at the end, the feeling of success and every emotion poured through me, and I had my mum in my head the whole way round and wished that she could follow this journey that I'd started. And it was when I crossed the finish line and I heard the boys screaming for me, and they were so proud, that Chris turned around and he said, I'm doing this next year. And then we trained together, and the rest is history. And it just so happened that through consistency of training, and it's not because I am some special human in terms of physiology, I actually did quite well in my age group. And that it was just that consistency and that turning up every day. And I did it the second year running, even though I swore that I'd only ever do one. I did it again, and I did it with Chris. And bizarrely, I didn't have a coach at that time. I'd done it all by myself. I qualified for the World Championships in Kona, Hawaii, and it came as a bit of a shock. And it was at that point that I thought, I have to be serious about this. I'm quite good at this. If I'm going to do it, I want to do it properly. And I got a coach. And to this day, I still have the same coach, Tony. And Chris, my husband, has Tony. And some people say to me, why do you have a coach if you're a coach now? Yeah. And I have a coach because it still makes me accountable. Yeah. And that is absolutely key for me. And then I did my coaching qualifications through Total Tri Training, which is the coaching organization that I am part of, and which I'm really passionate about and I really believe in. And the rest is history. And it's just it's a fantastic way to live my early 50s, to be honest with you. I get to do my passion, and I get to coach amazing people like you, and I have the most amazing athletes.
I guess too, like in midlife, because you're just overcoming an injury as well, aren't you?
I am,
we will probably face a little bit more injury as all things start to deplete as we get older. But it's also, I read something the other day, and it was also about your fitness is something you take with you everywhere. And I always say to my patients too, because anyone that's listening, I'm a chiropractor. So, we see variance in how people age. And I always say it's almost like a pension pot, from about 35, all sorts of things like our bone density and our muscle mass, our collagen production, everything starts to drop.
And so I always say, like, those younger years are like putting health into your health pension, just like you are, if you're obviously working or self-employed, especially, you need to put some money away for later in life. So there's something there. And our health is no different. And it's like you say, you never get the time back when you're raising kids, but it's also you never get those younger years left, which is when we can deposit all these kind of healthy habits.
Absolutely. Yeah. I, there's a phrase that I always come back to, and that's, I've just written it down. You don't stop moving because you grow old. You grow old
Yes.
because you stop moving. And
Yeah.
it's such a great way to think about it. And when I do my Ironman events, and you go to the award ceremony afterwards, and the wonderful thing about triathlon, it's done in age groups. So
Mm.
at this moment in time, I only ever compete against women age 50 to 54. So
Yeah.
there's always a sense of achievement, no matter, I know that I'm in a fair playing field.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing is that from your 40s up, doing what we do, you see people getting fitter and
Yeah.
fitter and fitter. And you have 50-year-olds, 55-year-olds that are fitter than the 25 to 29-year-olds. And yes, maybe it's because they've got a little bit more time in the bank or in their day
Yeah.
to do their training, but it's so interesting to see how people through a dedicated training program get fitter and fitter and actually stay mentally alert and resilient.
Yeah.
And it's really, really interesting to see when you go to these award ceremonies, the 75 to 79-year-old men and women that are competing at Ironman. And yes, there are fewer of them, but they
Yeah.
are definitely there. And it is the most inspiring thing when you see the oldest person stand up on that stage and take their podium spot. And you look at them and you think, that is life goals.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
so
And
honest.
that person probably has grandkids, and those
Oh,
grandkids are watching their grandparents do an Ironman or a
oh,
half Ironman or
absolutely.
yeah, it's amazing.
And even just talking about that, what I have seen time and time again at the number of ones that I've been to, it gives me goosebumps just thinking about it. It
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
inspiring. It really is. And
Yeah.
again, and they are just accountable every single day.
Yeah.
And it's that accountability. And every time we do a training session, and when sometimes, let's face it, training for Ironman or 70.3, a half Ironman, is boring. It's monotonous at times.
Well, I did call you. I did text you once. I think it was the time when I think I had to get Stephen to. I texted Stephen because I was in the garage on the bike, and my phone had run out of charge. I needed my charger, and I think I ended up doing like 1.5 workouts. I think it was my second week coaching with you, and I said to you, I said, "This is absolute shit." I think I had done. I don't know. I think I did close to 2 hours on a spin bike in the garage. Like, it was so boring. I just thought, what the
it,
hell have I
it
signed
is
up for?
it is boring, but every session that you do is a cookie in the jar.
Yeah.
And
And
the
to be
idea,
honest, even though it was way longer than it was supposed to be, it was that I just thought, I can do this. And it was just the
you can
mental
achieve
toughness.
anything.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and it's that cookie in the jar, and it's those train. The hard bit is not the race. The hard bit is the training to get
Oh
to the
God, yeah.
race, and
And it
it's
is
that
quite an
turn up.
isolated thing. I know there's triathlon clubs and things, but I have a full-time job and kids. So, a lot of the training is actually, hopefully when the weather gets better, get groups of
Yeah, we'll
women
get
out.
out on the
Yeah.
bikes. Yeah,
But it is
training for
quite a
training,
a
and you've
lonely
got a
sport.
fairly early event this year, so a lot of your training has to be in the winter months. A lot of
Yeah.
people choose events that are in late August, early September, so the bulk of their long hours can be during the summer months, and it's easier. I've got my first event is in 7 weeks in South Africa, so we've got some hellish training right now, long training hours. I was just talking to you a minute ago.
Oh yeah,
It's
this is
I
insane.
well,
Tell us
we've
what you did on Sunday.
on Sunday, this is our date day, which is quite amusing, really. But we had a 5-hour hilly ride to do. The weather is absolutely shocking, and the roads are bad. I don't want to come off my bike because I hit a pothole that's covered in leaves. So we have to be very mindful. And also, you've got expensive kit that if you come
Yeah.
off your bike and then you damage your bike, that's as a triathlete, that's like heartbreaking.
It's like your third
So
baby.
yeah, we had a 5 hour. So we did it on the turbos in the garage. So we sat on the turbos from 10 till 3. And I have Zwift on one platform and I've got Netflix on the other. I occasionally look over at Chris, he's got exactly the same ride. And was it boring? Yeah. Did I feel amazing once I'd finished? Because yes, I did. Not necessarily physically, but it was just because I'd mentally won. I'd stuck to the plan, and all of a sudden you realize, and actually then if I've got a 4-hour ride to do next week, for example, that's easy because it's an hour less.
Yeah.
So I play these mental games, and it is 80% in your head. And even when you race, it is 80% a mental game, getting through it. 20% is the physicality of it and getting through it. And it's like I said to you now, and I know, sometimes your training sessions, you struggle to fit them in because you're a busy mum, you're a busy at work. But could you go and do a 70.3 now? Absolutely. Would it be your best time? No, not necessarily. But could you do it? Absolutely. Physically, you could. But we want to get you there in the best physical place that you can have. We want to get you there in the best physical place that you can be. Sorry, my husband just rang in the middle of that. He's just arrived in London. Yeah. And yes, we want to get you there. But could you do it now? Yes, you absolutely could. The only thing that would perhaps stop you on the day is getting over that mental barrier. But you've done a 70.3 before, so you know that you can do it. It is.
Well, that was with very, very bad training. So obviously we did the first one, and I had been through quite a big emotional, well, you know what it was, like big life-changing, stressful event happened. Harris was 2, and I think it was Lou Tarrant.
Yeah.
She's been on one of the podcasts, actually. We were talking about the tsunami and how she got through it after. But I remember her saying, I've signed up for a half Ironman. And then I went online that day and I signed up, and she ended up not doing it for whatever reason. And then you were there. But the training was horrendous. I've always run, like I've done quite a few marathons in the past, but my fitness was horrendous. But for me, it was actually, I just needed a positive focus. And so my time was terrible. I remember Stephen handed me some jelly babies halfway around the run, and he goes, pull your finger out. That was the sort of husband I had at the time.
Sometimes you need a bit of tough love.
I know. But I just did it. I think it was, I needed something positive to focus on while I was going through everything. And and then I wasn't happy with my time, so I did it again the next summer. And then I thought,
for me, it's not just midlife. I suppose it's followed me from being a young child. Maybe maybe there's something in it being the youngest of 3 girls. I don't know, where you're always trying to live up to your big sisters, and I've always had challenges in my life.
Yeah.
And they're not necessarily always sporting challenges. And as I've got older and you've become a little bit wiser, I've come to realize that you always need to be working towards a challenge. For me, that's what I do, and that's what gives me my positivity in life. And if people will say to me, how do you do these things? How do you get through an Ironman? I said, well, it's not the fact that I get through an Ironman. It's that and the training is that I set myself a challenge, and I don't care who you are or what your challenge is. It could be learning to crochet. It could be you're going to start a new hobby of collecting stamps. It could be something really innocuous, that I'm going to start pegging my washing out and being more environmentally friendly. I'm going to set myself a challenge. It doesn't matter the nature of the challenge, but it's being accountable to that challenge, and the sense of success that you feel when you achieve it is intoxicating for me. And then you set yourself another challenge. And for me, it's like, don't limit your challenges, just challenge your limits.
Yeah. And I guess that's as a chiropractor too. It's, that's why you need to be healthy, I think, through these things. And that's why I say, I have a patient, actually, she's in her 70s, mid-late 70s, actually. She was borderline diabetic. She didn't want the metformin. So she went on she was determined. This is a woman in her mid-late 70s. Most women at that point would just take the drug. And she was determined. So she went on she's got a spin bike at home and a cross trainer. And I gave her some exercise bands to build some muscle mass to store some sugar. And it's come straight down in a matter of months. Now she's no longer, like, her HbA1c is way down. She doesn't need the drug. And she's lost, I don't know how much, probably a stone, 2 stone. and she feels amazing. And this is mid late 70s. So I
Yeah.
think it is. And she put a challenge together for herself, and she said, I don't want the drug. This is what I need to do. She stopped drinking alcohol. She cut down her sugar. And she's doing amazing. But I think women need to stop comparing themselves to others. So people listening to this, yes, you're an incredible Ironman triathlete or triathlete. You're super, super fit. You're early 50s. I don't know exactly how old you are, 51?
51.
51. And, so you're in amazing shape, actually, probably in better shape than most 20, 30-year-olds right now. But it doesn't have to be the Ironman. Like I always
No.
say to patients, count your steps, 8,000, 10,000. Just take your supplements every day, drink more water. It doesn't have to be massive things. And if you
And
miss a
it's,
day, you miss a day. It's not a big deal.
yeah, and it's one challenge at a time. Just set yourself a challenge, or if you want to call it a goal, but just be accountable to that.
Yeah.
For, I think, how long does it take to create a habit? They say, I think it changes from
21 days to
21
266
days or
days.
something like that. Just be accountable.
Yeah.
In my head, I wouldn't start my day without brushing my teeth. I wouldn't finish my day without doing my exercise. And if your challenge is learning to crochet, start your day with brushing your teeth and make sure you finish your day with doing a bit of crocheting, and just keep doing that and tick it over to the point that all of a sudden you've created something or you've achieved something. And for me, challenge is the seed of opportunity, and it doesn't have to be what I do. And I don't know why my mindset has focused in on sport being my challenge, but it's something that I've grown up with. So it's something that perhaps comes more naturally to me. Could I learn to crochet? Probably, if I challenge myself, but I'm not as creative. I'm more physical than I am creative.
Yeah.
But just have a challenge, and when we have challenge, especially all through life, you thrive, you don't wither. And I refuse to wither in life. I refuse. And actually, by doing what I do, and the most important people I want to inspire in life are my boys and my husband. If I can inspire other people in my peripheral life to do that, that's another win, isn't it?
Yeah.
But by doing what I do, I see Louis and Finley have this passion for sport. It's different. I mean, they think I'm crazy. Louis, my eldest one, he's like, when I have time and I'm not studying as hard as I am now, I will focus on Ironman. He's a really successful rugby player.
Yeah.
Finley, our younger one, he looks at us and he would be really good as well at doing an Ironman event. He's like, I'm not doing that. He might change his mind when he grows up, but I don't care, because they found their passion. Finley's a really good hockey player. Lou's a really good rugby player. And I get immense joy from seeing them have that. They set themselves challenges. And I do think that is a nurture thing. They've seen mum and dad do that. And they've said, right, I'm going to set myself the challenge, of playing for the first team at Newcastle University in rugby or in hockey. And they've achieved it. And that will follow them through life. So set yourself a challenge. It could be really small, but don't sit around waiting for challenge to find you, because you have to find it yourself.
We were talking about the importance of a coach too. Like I have a business coach. He keeps me accountable, make sure I'm doing what I need to be doing. We talk about research and all sorts of things, but I find it incredibly helpful. I talk to him half an hour every week. I've been in practice for over 20 years. So, and then when I decided, because I did the half Ironmans probably for a mental kind of challenge more than anything. Because I knew I couldn't get the training, and the kids were too little, and Lauren swam every day, and lots of cricket and hockey and everything like that. So I knew I couldn't train. So for me, the other races were really just a mental, like to keep me mentally focused. And then I can't remember how I heard you had qualified as a coach, but then we met for coffee and you said, what do you want? And I just thought, I want to actually do a half Ironman and actually know that I trained. So let's see how well I can do. And also, because I'm really not very good at tech, but a tech idiot, actually. I said, I'll do it, but you have to come and set everything up, which you did. So
I wish I did. I worked it out.
Glitches along the way. But yeah, I love it because, you get the training program on your phone, and I move it around sometimes to fit my schedule. But yeah, especially in the beginning, the last couple of weeks, it's been a bit hit and miss. But the running, I keep doing the running. The spin bike is it's been great, especially through the winter months. But and you can see on the app how many hours of training you're supposed to be doing and then how many you've done. And
Mm.
you just find a way to fit it in. Even if I
You,
was on my spin bike, I think at 11 p.m. one night. It was Friday night. I thought, rock on, what's my life come to? But, I did do it.
yeah,
It's
and
so important to have that accountability. And I guess that's what you're signing up for.
well, it is what you're signing up for. And I think accountability is key. And I made reference to it earlier that I still have a coach. Could I write my own training program and it be as effective as the one that I've got? Absolutely. Could I write my husband's? Absolutely. But the very fact that we pay for a coach who's also a total tri training coach, he's a great friend of ours. And it keeps me accountable. So I put the thinking in for you and all my other athletes. I have somebody else put the thinking in for me. And because he puts the thinking in for me, it makes me accountable. And also, and actually it was Tony that said this to me once, and it actually resonated with me. If somebody wrote you a training program for free,
yeah,
you don't value anything truly in life that you get for free.
No, there has to be
if you have to earn money, and then that hard-earned money is you use some of that to pay for a coach, that makes that program that is written for you far more valuable, because you've actually had to earn money to pay for that, so you're more likely to do it. And that's the the bottom line of it, and it makes you more accountable. If it was for free, it holds less value to you. And you're more likely to complete your training and actually put those hours in and find time in your day to do that training. A lot of time people will say, and you do get athletes that come to you that they like the idea of accountability, but they're not quite ready to grasp it. And that's fine. It has to be at the right moment in time for the individual and the athlete that you've got. But actually, if you look at a 24-hour day, most people, even with a really busy job, can fit an hour's training in.
100%. Yeah.
And if you look at your phone and how long you were, people are on social media. Even as, people in our midlife, we spend a lot of time looking at our phone, when if we just put it down for an hour, we could find an hour. I could argue that I could find an hour in even the busiest of people's day. And I think the metric for me is Chris, my husband, who has a really, really busy job. So today he's gone to London. I mentioned it to you a bit earlier. He's gone to London today. He's really committed to his training. He's got a great mindset. And he will get the 7:00 train back from London tonight. He'll get in at about 9:30, and then he'll get on the turbo at 10:00 tonight till 11. And then he's only got an hour session to do today, but he'll get it done. He'll get it banked. He'll be in bed for about midnight, and then he's up again tomorrow to get back down to London. And that's that
discipline.
Now that is maybe a little bit extreme, and that doesn't happen all the time with Chris, because he does work from home during the week now, as well as traveling down to London still. But there is always time. You can always find time, definitely. And it's just making people realize that they can actually find time, and they've got to, move things around, and they've just got to, instead of sitting and, just sort of putting your feet up and like procrastinating, maybe just get out there, get it done, get it ticked off, and then you feel, and it just inspires you, and it is quite addictive. And I
guess every time you do it, when you don't, I always say to people too, like it's like those little dopamine hits, and the dopamine hit is so much bigger the days that you don't want to do it, and you get on anyway, and the gym's freezing, and I go out there with 3 jumpers on. It's just cold, and it's dark, and it's raining, and it's
and it's winter miles for summer smiles.
I don't mind running running in rain, sleet, snow. It's the cycling.
It's the cycling that's hard. And actually there's an element of, there's a safety element there as well. It's easier to run outside. in the winter months. But yeah, it's just accountability is absolutely key in in any walk of life.
How is this? Because obviously Chris started, he's been doing it. I mean, he's been competing, or just in New Zealand, he was competing, doing Ironman. It's interesting. It's because you're now empty nesters, aren't you? And
We
then
are.
you've decided to go on this Ironman journey together. How has it shaped your relationship? I would imagine you've only become, because I think Stephen and I just celebrated 20 years in November. And it's like, okay, when, Harris is 10 this weekend, and it's, what are we going to do together? you know,
Yeah.
I think your relationship changes massively as your kids get older.
Yeah, and I think we're nearly at 25 years, so we're 25 years
book
in May. I think all through our married life, yes, we've been through challenging times. Yes, we're no different from any other married couple. And we have been through, moments where, work for both of us is, very, very testing. We've had, the time when mum was poorly, and it puts emotional stress on you. Like, it's hard to actually express. We've had times with the kids where, we didn't really have anybody close by to look after the kids. So it had to come from both just me and Chris, predominantly myself. But we've always had, and we've always tried to do things together. And I was very aware that just from people that we knew when their kids went off to university, and you could see it, this divide had grown between them. And it was a bit like when their kids go off to uni, it's a bit like they then look at each other and they say,
who are you?
Well, who are you? Absolutely. Because the focus is on the children. And whilst the focus has been on the boys, and I mentioned earlier that you get one chance to get your kids right. And we've always done that as a unit, as in a family. And Chris and I have always worked hard to be best friends and to do things together and to take the time to do things together. And so when Chris, he's done his cycling, and then I started cycling years ago to sort of join in with Chris. We've tried to share the same hobbies. He wasn't interested in the CrossFit journey that I went on. So that when he decided to do an Ironman, and we found this passion together, and the kids have gone off now, and we do some destination races all over the world. And in our view is that we've worked really hard in our life to earn the luxury to do that. I won't call it a luxury when you're actually racing an Ironman. It's really like it's
let's face it, it's not the cheapest sport in the world.
Yeah, no, it's not. But to visit those places, and we've met some amazing people along the way. But it has brought us close together, and we've always been very mindful. So if I look back to when Chris and I got together, and we were both in the military, Chris and I got married, and 10 days later I deployed on operations for 6 months. So our first 6 months of marriage were apart. And it was in that 6 months that Chris realized, because of what he did in the military, that we're going to be ships in the night. Something has to give. Yeah. So he made the first decision to leave the military. And he then made the decision, he got his job that he's still with now, and he's still with the same company. We decided to make our base York, and Chris commuted from London daily, there and back every day for 20 years, because we realized that actually coming home to your own bed every night, or for Chris, was an absolute luxury, because we spent so much of our earlier years not having that luxury and being apart for 6 months at a time. So we've always had this, we call it our compass. We've always had this point where we're together at the top, and that they can go apart at the bottom, but we've always come back together. And we've used that analogy all through our lives to try and always to come back together, to never let life divide us, even when we've had kids. So now we have this amazing relationship where we are best friends still. And it doesn't, have we had to work at it? Absolutely. The same as everybody else, but we've always been there, and we've always been a unit, that we've worked together, and we've worked hard at it. Had we not worked hard at it, would there been a possibility that we could have gone our separate ways? Yeah, I'm sure. Like every situation, every relationship, if you don't work at it, you become ships in the night, and you've got to keep together. And that's what we've done. And yeah, we travel all over now, doing these crazy events and going on training camps, and but it's great because we meet amazing people along the way, and I get to work with amazing athletes like yourself, and yeah, life is good. Life is good. Yeah. But we put the hard work in.
Well, you don't get anything. You don't get anything in life without a bit of hard work.
You don't, Ali. You don't. You've got to graft at it.
Yeah. And I think you and I we're both raising teenagers in this world where resilience is almost not praised.
Yeah. And actually resilience, I mean, it's a massive key word now, but I suppose
I was listening to a pod, they were talking more about mental fitness, and I think that's something that needs to be, and I think it's good for kids. That's one of the things I love about sport with the kids is, sometimes they don't get picked for the team, sometimes they don't get the position they want, sometimes they lose, sometimes it's team sport. They get, they get constructive criticism or feedback from coaches aside from their parents. They're not given stickers and medals when they're not, when they shouldn't be. And I think it has shaped my children. I do think it's made them much tougher. Especially it's the knocks, actually, if they can just see through them. And I think a lot of kids aren't getting knocks anymore. And so they don't get into the university or the job or the girlfriend, boyfriend, or somebody, and then you've got social media on top of it. But I think it's the mental fitness, and I think sport and just being physically fit, it ties in massively. Like you talk about the discipline of training for something like this, and they may just see you in New Zealand or Copenhagen with your bling and your medal, and they don't see all the hard work and the years and years of hard work that's come
I think going back to that mental resilience for young people, and sport for me plays a massive role in it, because if you take a team sport or even an individual sport, it transcends every emotion, from success to failure to anger to frustration, everything. And in order to succeed, you've got to have a million knockbacks first. And children have to normalize that. You have to normalize it with your children. And every time that Lou and Finley have failed, for us, that's a positive, because it's a way that they can learn to get it right next time. So instead of wrapping them up in blankets and giving them hot chocolate every time the boys have failed, or every time they've come home from school in past years where school hasn't gone well or they've failed an exam, and it's like, right, okay, so park it, learn from it, let's move on. And maybe there's a bit of us being military, you have to be like that in the military to survive. You can't wallow. And we've I'd like to think that we have taught our boys not to wallow. No, to be truthful, and this might sound a little bit brutal, but nobody really cares about your problems other than your family. You can talk about them to people and you hope that they will care, but they don't really. And I know that sounds, so when people going on about, and they become a bit woe is me, nobody really cares. The only way that you can change things in life is you've got to do it yourself.
I listened to Mel Robbins. I don't know if you know Mel Robbins,
right?
She's an American kind of life coach, but she just says no one's coming. Like you either pick yourself up or you're gonna sit there.
You're gonna sit there, and you're gonna wither.
And years will pass, and we're only here for a short time.
Well, we're a long time dead.
Well, yeah, exactly.
You're a long time dead. So in terms, and that's what I go back to, you've got one shot at getting your kids right. And you're not going to get your kids right by wrapping them up in blankets, and giving them comforters. You've got to let them fail. You have to fail. You have to fail more often. And every time you fail, when you do succeed, it makes that success so much more poignant. And you can't do it for them. You have to give your children wings to fly. And those wings only come through sometimes a bit of tough love. And actually, for example, Louis doing his finals at the minute. He's doing a really tough degree. I can't even understand it, to be honest with you. He's doing biomedical science and it's hard. And sometimes, you know, he's doing a lot of lab work at the minute, and he did something the other day. And I said, oh, it's not been a good day, Mum. I said, why? What's happened? He said, well, you wouldn't really understand it. And true, I wouldn't really understand it. And it was something to do with DNA. And he said, sometimes it doesn't go right, the testing. I said, well, you just got to get back on the horse, love.
Yeah.
You know, there's no point in saying, oh, Louis, it's all right, it'll be fine. You've just got to just get back on the horse and start again.
Yeah.
And because if you're not going to start again, nobody's going to do it for you.
Yeah, exactly. And if you allow them to wallow, then you can sit there and have a half-hour conversation about it.
And resilience is born out of failure again and again. And you know, failure should not be a negative word.
No.
Failure for me is one of the most positive words in life, because I have failed a million times to eventually get a win in all manner of all walks of life, and not just in sport, you know, in career, in relationship, in life, in house, in just everything.
Yeah. It's just part of life.
It's a really integral part of life.
Yeah.
So yeah, you've got to be resilient. And that resilience, if I look at that now in terms of what I do and my training, that being resilient is what enables me to sit on a watt bike or a turbo in the garage for 5 hours and not give up.
Most people don't do that.
No, I don't. And so
well done.
I know, it's crazy.
Good thing for Netflix, hey?
Thank God for Netflix. I tend to watch.
What are you watching? Yellowstone?
No, I've watched all of Yellowstone. I was watching, it was on YouTube. It's called Iron Will, and it follows some of the top pro triathletes, and it follows them through their journey and what they have to do. And actually, it's very similar to what I do. It's just they're a bit younger and they do more hours of it. So basically, it's just you know, the more hours training you do, the better you become. It's just that we're perhaps a little bit more prone to injury as we get older. We have to manage that a little bit differently. But their mindset, and it's quite motivational. It's quite good for inspiring us, because when we go to these races, these Ironman races, we see them at the races. We see them at the same start line that we're on. And I know it doesn't get as much as big a following as some of the other sports that you get in life, but to us, you know, they are absolute Olympians in what they can achieve and what
it's just such a fun sport. I remember I was doing a stand for the practice actually at Castle Howard. This is years ago. And I was stuck in a tent on a hill, and I don't think I talked to anyone really. So I was like, and I just watched this thing that I obviously heard about it, but I was just like, oh my gosh, 2 weeks later, I bought my bike. My first bike. My husband was like, well, if you love it that much, go buy a bike. And it's just, I've always been quite active, but before I was into marathon running, you know, so the running has always been kind of my strong point. The cycling's always probably been my weakest one. But yeah, I just watched this thing and I just thought, this looks amazing. Like the atmosphere, the buzz, the transition, it's just amazing.
If you've never been to an Ironman, I know there's lots of non-branded Ironman event, and I am in
but even just a try, like a sprint try, like they're just, the atmosphere is just palpable.
Like it is. And the nice thing is we tend to do Ironman events, but there's lots of local triathlons that people can do. The nicest thing, there's a saying, isn't there? Don't judge a book by its cover. So when you think of Ironman, you think of, you know, these mega fit people and, you know, like with like 4% body fat and things like that. And it couldn't be further from the truth. And it goes back to that 80% in your head, because you could be on the run and you could be, I don't know, 10 miles in, and somebody runs past you and overtakes you that perhaps carries weight. And you look at them and you think, you shouldn't be able to run faster than me, you know, but they do. Or equally, you get the 66-year-old like lady that runs past you who can run an absolute, you know, a 4-hour marathon off the back of an Ironman. Or you get the guy in the wheelchair that's doing it in the physically challenged section, or the amputee that's doing it with a prosthetic on. And it's the most inspiring.
Yeah.
It's just hugely inspiring for even people watching on the sidelines. And it's often those people that watch on the sidelines, like Chris, my husband. He wasn't just inspired by me, his wife, who he loves doing an Ironman. He was inspired by the people he saw doing it, who didn't necessarily look like they should be able to finish an Ironman, but they absolutely did, and they nailed it. And the stories of inspiration are immeasurable. Immeasurable. And it's just wonderful to see. And it is very, very, it's very intoxicating. And it doesn't have to be an Ironman event or a 70.
No, it can be anything. Like we discussed earlier, it could be 10,000 steps a day.
Yeah.
And when you see your watch and you've hit 10,000 steps,
you
it's
think,
not self-care. It's like, it's just a little bit of, just self-care every day, doing something. It's like drinking more water, not having the sweet, just doing the little things and the little hits of dopamine. Like, you know how good you feel when your alarm goes off and you don't hit snooze, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like,
you get up.
Badass. I can get out.
Before 8 o'clock, you've got up, you've walked the dogs, you've sorted the dog site, you've got your first wash on, you've done all of these things, and you think, oh my goodness, you've done your banking, you've done life admin. You think, God, I've really achieved today.
I can do something.
I never feel good if ever I sit on my backside. So, for example, last week, I had to have a cortisone injection in my ankle, just for an ongoing injury. And I had to sit still. I had to sit and just rest it. And I like
mental.
It wasn't I was getting mental. I just felt like I hadn't made the most of my day. And it's like you say, we're here for a very short span of time, really. And you've got to make the most of every day. And sometimes it's nice to sit down.
Yes, rest days are actually quite good, but I don't think you and I are very good at those. Yeah.
But and sometimes it's nice to have a rest like that. But when rest is forced upon you, I find it quite frustrating. And I like to achieve. I think it's important in life to achieve. And whether those achievements you call them challenges, or I don't know, whatever you want to call them, just get up every day and be accountable to something. And all of a sudden you've achieved something. You can go on to the next thing, and you can go on to the next thing. And it might be to learn to knit, or it might be to, I'm gonna, like, for example, we got a skip about 3 weeks ago, and we've done a big clear out, and we've
that's good.
And it is good. I mean, like, we're good.
That feels good.
It feels good, but don't you feel like you've achieved? And we've done is hired a skip, but we've actually done the work to clear all these things out and to just reset. And I think challenges in life are a good resetting tool. Massively. Yeah.
How were your parents military?
Nope.
Were Chris's?
Nope. No, Chris's weren't. I can honestly say, Chris is York born and bred. And his mum and dad are still around. His mum and dad got divorced when he was younger. And I think that had quite a profound impact on him. And he joined the army as a soldier, actually, and then later got commissioned into being an officer. And I think that for Chris, he just wanted to get away. He wanted to get away. But he returned back, and he's very close with his mum and dad now, and there's absolutely there was no wrongdoing anyway. He just wanted to find his own path. And then for myself, I was in the Combined Cadet Force at school. So I had an inkling that I might want to join the military, and it was when I was at university and I was doing my postgrad. I thought, I'm going to apply and I'm going to join. I want to be an officer in the army. So there was no military. My grandfather was in the military, but no military really. I like the idea of traveling the world, and I was, to a certain degree, I was lucky enough to do that. I mean, I suppose the win-win for me in the military was meeting Chris. So
did it teach you a lot of discipline, or do you think that was there already?
Absolutely. The army or any military, when you first join the army, you have a 5-week block of just basic soldiering, whether you're a soldier or whether you're training to be an officer. And they strip everything back. And it's no different now than it was in the 90s when I did it.
Is it
And
softer now?
I don't believe it is. I hope
No.
it's not.
No, I hope it's not either, but I have heard it is.
I mean, I think Sandhurst is exactly the same training. It's still a year's training. They still do the same things that I did, because, you know, why fix it when it isn't broken? And it was, you have this 5-week block of training, and they strip you right back to bed blocks, to 5 pairs of socks, to no civilian clothes, and you do drill, you learn to use a rifle, and they strip you right back. There's no social media wasn't a thing then.
Didn't
really
exist,
you're allowed 1 phone call a week to your family.
Wow.
And basically they strip you right back, and then they build you up into being a soldier, basically. And it just sorts your life out. It sorts your life out. And we are, I mean, you only have to ask any of our friends. The Recchias are always early. Always early. We're early for everything. And like, if we go on holiday with our friends and they get to the airport before us, it's a massive joke that you know, they've got there before us. We're always,
are your clothes also folded perfectly?
Yeah, we are just like, if you opened our wardrobe, we absolutely are. And we
Mary
always,
Kondo came to your house.
we always make our beds. People come into our house and they're like, it's so tidy and organized. But in my mind, if you use something, just put it away afterwards.
I'm very OCD with the beds. I'm like, you have to make your bed in the morning. It's like a non-negotiable in mine.
There's a great YouTube clip of some colonel, I think it is, in the US Royal Marines,
if you do anything, absolutely,
do anything at the start of the day, make your bed, because then if you don't achieve anything all day, when you get into your bed on a nighttime, you've achieved that. And it's true. We are still military. It very much shapes our life still. We don't necessarily think in a military way, but we live our life in an organized way. And by being organized, you can definitely achieve more. If your life is chaotic and you've just got, you know, pardon the language, shit everywhere.
Yeah.
Like, life is so hard if we had shit everywhere, it'd be very hard to be so disciplined in our training.
Yeah.
Because you've got to go to find it. Where's that? Where's this? You know, use something, take it off, put it away. Use something, put it in the wash basket, put a wash on. That washing's finished, put it off. And like, this happens in and around working life as well. But if I think to do something, if I think, oh, I've got to contact Arlene today, I'll do it there and then when I think about it. And there's another thing, it's pet hate of mine. I cannot have, you know, when you get your little Gmail app in your phone, or your mail app, or your messages, and you've got like a number next to it, like 1, 2, 3 unopened messages. I can't. If I've got unopened messages, I have to deal with them. I have to deal with them, and I have to deal with it there and then they get filed. Like, I was seeing, I don't know who it was, but they had like 30,000 or so unopened emails, and I was like, are you kidding me? How can you
heart palpitation, Fran?
How can it does. It makes me feel a little bit sick, that I have to say. How can you have that? Just like, you get something, it takes 30 seconds normally to deal with it. And for example, if you can't deal with it then, I'll make a diary entry to remind myself to deal with it, you know, at a time that I can. If you get an appointment to come through, book your appointment, get it sorted, and stick to it. And I can't have a chaotic life. I really
You are
can't.
military.
Well, but I mean, I think we've taught the boys well. And it's interesting because at university, Louis is really organised and tidy. So there's definitely some nurture there. And Finlay tells me that his room is tidy at university. But when the boys come back here, all of a sudden there's shoes here and shoes there, and I'm just put your stuff away. Just put your stuff away, because then it's clear lines, isn't it? If you've got clear lines, then you could. My view is that you can achieve more in life.
Well, there's a massive movement to minimalism, isn't there?
Oh, get a skip.
Yeah, I watched an Oprah documentary. She went to Denmark and actually just looked at how people live. It's the same thing I'm Dutch by background and I lived in Amsterdam. No one has a lot of shit in their house.
No.
When they don't have space or storage, but most people live in quite smaller spaces. But they just have like a shampoo, a conditioner, a mascara, and eyeliner. They don't have like a million lotions and potions and a closet full of like clothes that you never wear. They just don't have it.
They don't need it though, do you? I mean,
I don't think anyone needs it, but we do it.
It's very cathartic, isn't it? Having a clear out, and we just like, and when you're in the military, you have a Bergen, which is your big rucksack, and when you go and exercise, everything is packed in your Bergen. You only ever take what you need and what you can survive with. Yeah. And if you go and exercise, and if you get attacked during the night and it's a platoon attack, I'm going back to training days. The idea is that if you are operating in the dark, you should be able to put your hand in that Bergen and find anything just like that. And you don't need excess in your life. You've got to keep it simple. And when you keep it simple, life is simple. The more things you put into life, and I suppose this isn't just with like, materialistic things and personal possessions, the more you put into life, the more complex it becomes. Keep it straightforward, keep it simple, and accountability enables you to simplify things in life. And we keep banging back onto accountability. It's so true.
It is.
And clear your emails out. Don't have 30,000 and oh my God. It's like, no. It's just
not good for Fran's heart.
It's not good for my head. It's not good for my headspace. Which is why, as a coach, it's really important. I had a friend come who I was racing out in Australia at the World Champs in summer, and I met this really lovely lady, and she was up in York, and she was in the age category below me, and she came to see me, and we had a really nice sort of catch up and coffee. And she's got a coach at the minute, and she wasn't too happy with the way it was going, and she just said to me, it just doesn't respond to my my messages or emails. And I was like, that's just like bizarre. And like, if you are paying for somebody to coach you, as a coach, it goes much beyond writing the program. You have to be responsive to your athletes. You have to communicate. You can't communicate if you've got 30,000 unopened emails because you don't know which one. So you have to be, on the ball. You have to communicate with your athletes. And she said to me, how often do you speak to your athletes? I said, I speak to my athletes all the time. If they send me a message like you did this morning, just about your watch, I respond straight away. So being a coach,
like Arlene's got another tech issue.
But you respond straight away. You don't let your athlete of sit in the background, and that goes back to being organized in your life. You have to be organized.
I'm reading a book right now. I think it's called Essentialism, but there's a diagram, and it's the same amount of energy. It's a circle. One's just got one arrow up, and the other one just has lots of like a million arrows going out. Same amount of energy, but one is focused and one isn't. And it's interesting because my chiropractor, his wife supports the business, does the kids, does the birthdays, does everything. And he even said to me, he goes, because obviously Stephen has a job, and he goes, it is harder for women if they're doing the mom, the business, the thing, because it's like that cogwheel with like a million spokes coming out. And I do, like, I'm very supportive of women working, but it is like you said, you only have one chance to get the kids right. And when you've got two parents trying to build a career, it's hard work. Like, it's not easy because you don't just have one arrow going up, and you said earlier, I think it was before we pushed record, but you said, family, then career, then triathlon.
Yeah, massively. And, when you think about cost of living and, life is expensive.
Yeah.
We all make choices to have children. We all make those choices. That is a personal choice. It's nobody else's responsibility. This is my view. It's nobody else. You have to take charge of that. And sometimes when I decided to focus on the boys, Chris and I had to cut our cloth very accordingly to be able to do that. And it was a tough choice. And it wasn't because I just wanted this luxury life of being, you know, stay-at-home mum. It was much more than that. And it comes with its challenges. And we've worked tirelessly hard to make that work. But it always boiled down to the fact that family first, work second, and everything else, and obviously triathlon third now, or it comes in as that's come into our life. But the family has to come first. And if you have to cut your cloth accordingly, if you have to move house to downsize to make sure that your children have, you know, the best, when I say the best chance in life, it's not about the financials, it's about the time you invest in them. It doesn't matter.
It's about our presence.
If you haven't got 2 pennies to rub together, you can still be the most amazing parent. It's not about when you've just got to give your children that time, and we did that, and I always knew that, you know, once the boys went off to university, that I would come out of my temporary retirement to do something else, or focus on a third. We call it our third career. It's my third career, so to speak. And it's important. But that doesn't mean that you can't have time for you in your midlife, and every level of your life, or every, you know, from your teens to your early 20s, 30s, 40s, comes with its challenges. And for us as women, midlife, we haven't really touched too much on the perimenopause and the menopause. I refuse to be dictated to by perimenopause and menopause. Perimenopause and menopause has happened for years, and I'm going to have to go through it. And if I need to take HRT, I'll take HRT, and I'll take advice from it. But I'm going to have to put my big girl pants on and just deal with it. Nobody else cares about my perimenopause and me going through menopause. I've got to deal with it, and I have to deal with it. If I try and deal with it negatively, I'm going to feel crap. If I try and deal with it positively, I'm going to feel, right, I'm going to get through this. And I always say, for me, sport is my medicine. Sport is my medicine, not just physically, but mentally as well.
Eventually, almost more than physically. I always say to patients, like, we've got a decal, I'm like, you know, movement to the spine is one of the most important, you know, stimulators to the brain. You know, so if you don't move, you just have to move. You have to move. And let's face it, there's about, God knows, tens of thousands of books on nutrition. I mean, one guy tells you that, you know, you need to go carnivore. The next guy is saying plant-based. To be honest, we know very little about what's actually, so if you just clean up your diet and actually move, you're going to clear up most issues.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I think so many people are ultimately, for me, it's calories in versus calories out. You know, I would, if I ate more calories than they burned in a day, I'm going to put weight on. It's like, but I manage it through being, I manage my nutrition. I thankfully I eat what I want, but I'm cognizant of the fact that I do need to eat carbohydrates and do need to fuel my training. I don't starve myself. I think that's a slippery slope when people starve, because, like, let's face it, there's nobody on this planet that says they were happy when they were starving themselves. Well, there's not.
I am going to challenge you on the calorie thing, though, because that's kind of what led to the heart disease issue. And I think because if you're going to count calories, you'll go for the pasta and the whatever versus the steak, because the steak takes more calories to burn. So, and I think that's why Weight Watchers and Slimming Fast and things like that. So I think it is just the quality of the calorie.
Yeah, no.
Like, if I look at what I eat a lot of fat. I eat quite a lot of protein, yet I'm not overweight. And I don't think it's because there's been times in my life where my exercise, because the kids were so heavily in sport, that my exercise was pretty thin. Like, I might run once a week. I'm quite active at work. I'm not sitting at a desk, but I've never had an issue with my weight as an adult. And I do think it's because of what I eat. It's clean,
I agree.
But it's not low calorie by any stretch.
No, absolutely.
It's butter, it's avocados, it's meat, it's cream, it's, you know, so
it's all of that. I do agree. And whereas it's not that I don't calorie count, but I am aware that if I if I was to consume way too more calories
Yes, yeah,
than I burn, then I'm gonna get out of shape.
yeah,
And it only takes it, to put weight on. It creeps on people, yeah, over time, but that time goes quite quickly, and before they
yeah,
know it, they are, they're maybe, I don't know, 10 kilos heavier. And
yes, yeah.
I don't watch my weight. If I didn't do what I did, would I be overweight? Probably, to be honest with you.
Although I did know you before you got into trial, you've never had an issue with your weight, though, have
I
you?
did. I was probably bigger then, and the very fact that I do what I do now keeps
Yeah.
me
You were on
naturally
a turbo for 5 hours, Fran.
yeah, in check. And I don't count. I pretty much eat what I eat, and I know that I've got to eat.
Yeah,
And I'm it's not that I'm not adventurous with my food. I eat a lot of eggs, we eat a lot of protein,
yeah,
but equally I eat a lot of carbohydrates.
yeah,
I know that if I go and do a big training session, if I haven't eaten, I can see that in my power output. I can see that in my pace.
yeah,
I know how that perceived effort feels. It feels a lot harder if I've not fueled it right. So I have to fuel it right.
yeah.
So yeah, so I mean, how did we get onto this topic of nutrition? And you are far more educated than I am when it comes to
I
nutrition.
think I'm just fascinated with it. And I was just at a conference on Saturday, actually, in Birmingham, and it was a nutrition conference. And I think, like, talking about midlife women in HRT, I'm not anti-HRT. I've met women who's probably saved their life, and it's again, it comes down to choices. But I think it does become a bit of a plaster, and it's the minute we hit a certain age and we have a few symptoms, whether it be a hot flush or weight gain or mood, brain fog, automatically we're not looking at any of the deficiencies. We're not looking at the function of our liver. We're not really looking at, like, what is actually the problem. Is it a deficiency? Is it a toxicity? Why is the liver not clearing these dirty estrogens? Why are we estrogen dominant? Like, we also have age appropriate hormones, and it should be a very gradual thing, but it seems to be hitting us like a train. And so I guess what we were talking about is, just some supplements, some good quality nutritional supplements, some detoxification, some good foods, some of the herbs that are very good for detoxing dirty estrogens and the estrogen buildup. Also, a lot of women are on the coil, they're on the pill, and they don't ever have a bleed. So you've not been shedding this lining for years. And
Mm.
then instead of actually really looking at the woman as an individual, seeing what stress is, nutrition, any other health concerns that they may have, and looking at them as a project and trying to fix them, we're just slapping HRT on women. And
Mm-hmm.
it is a synthetic hormone, and I'm not anti it, but I think has to be a lot of other digging. Otherwise,
Yeah.
you feel better, but actually, at some point, you're going to have to come off of this thing. And then
Yeah,
what
you can't be on it
happens?
forever. Yeah, I know. And actually, if you look back, oh my goodness, only 20 years, nobody spoke about menopause.
No.
I didn't really discuss it with my mum when she was going through it. It just wasn't spoken about, really. Women
Yeah.
just got on with it, didn't they?
Yeah, yeah.
They
And I,
just got,
I didn't think my mom struggled. She never said anything.
she never
And I
said it.
spoke to her a couple years ago. I said, "You sailed through it." She goes, "No, it was horrendous."
Yeah, I know. And I think my mum was sort of mainly hot flushes. I never spoke to her
Yeah.
about, because I would see her, like, she would be like getting the fan out. She had one of these electric fans in every room.
Yeah.
So
It's
I
like,
kind
Mom,
of
it's February.
yeah, it's February. And so it's but you're right, you've got to come off HRT at some point. I honestly believe that like I mentioned it before, my medicine
Yeah.
is my sport, is my exercise. And I think that I combat probably a lot of the symptoms of perimenopause through
Yeah.
my activity that I do. I think it's so undervalued in
Yeah.
terms of how it just doesn't benefit you cardiovascularly and mentally. There's so many other benefits that sport and exercise in some form
Yeah.
or another brings to you. And there's so much science behind it now. But for me, I definitely think that is the golden nugget that I've got, and I'm going to keep doing it all the way through until I am post menopause. And hopefully, with the same passion that I've got now.
Yeah.
I think it's key. And you're a bit younger than me, so you're probably
not really.
Yeah, you are, but you're not at
48.
Yeah. So, but I think, do I get some symptoms? Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll be looking at a computer and I'm doing your program, and I'll be kind of staring at the screen for a bit longer than I want to, and I just say, I know what that is. That's like, and then sometimes I have to just a little bit of fog, and I just have to click myself back in.
Yeah. But I find, because I was talking to the guy, it's Simon Billings actually. We use some of his supplements in the practice. But I said, what would the average midlife woman with few symptoms, but what are the bare essentials really? And he said vitamin D.
Yeah.
Absolutely non-emotional, but a good dose of vitamin D, especially because it's our mood, our energy, the bone density, and it's something that the NHS doesn't really test for unless it's absolutely necessary anymore.
Yeah.
And you've got a lot of women, with depression, and they're just stuck on sertraline or any other SSRI. And actually, the vitamin D levels are never tested, which, in my opinion, is quite insane. He said a good collagen, because ligaments, tendon, bone.
Yeah.
And that goes down from about 30. And he says, a good methylated multivit. So you've got enough good B vitamins, activated B vitamins, and things like that. And he goes, and then the rest is really kind of patient dependent. But he goes, those three things are so important.
Yeah. So important. I couldn't agree more. I mean, we take daily collagen, and actually Chris takes daily collagen just for prevention of injury.
Yeah, but it's not just for women. I mean, men, absolutely. About 30, 35, our collagen synthesis goes way down. So if we want to stay active and flexible and feed those tendons, ligaments, unless you're going to drink bone broth every day, it's gross.
Gross. Yeah, it's not my bag, that. Yeah. And we take a really, really good collagen that's science backed.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, because there's no regulation in supplements, so make sure the source is.
Yeah, and it's a really it's highly respected in the sporting community as well. So and I honestly, in terms of injury, it's really good for recovery as well. So whenever we've got injured, it's definitely, and it's not a placebo effect, it's definitely helped us recover a lot quicker.
Which one do you use?
We use one called UPerform.
Okay.
So, and it's very much backed by science, and it comes as like your gels that you have on your bike. So it's almost got that consistency and that taste, but it's really good. It's and they have a lot of different products. They have like magnesium products, and but we really rate it. And we take, if you're not injured, we take 1 sachet a day. If you are injured, they recommend 2 sachets a day. And after my ankle problem, it definitely helped in my recovery. And definitely helped. It got me to a point where I wasn't going to get any. It helped me recover to a certain point without more. It helped me recover quicker to a certain point, definitely. And then I had to have the cortisone injection because it wasn't going to get any better because I was weight bearing all the time.
Let's first do no harm. It doesn't mean we never need any intervention, but
no. Absolutely.
And that cortisone injection is going to get you back training. So, we're grateful for them.
And I've never had one before, and it had an almost immediate effect.
Yeah, you said you were quite happy.
It's I know it's a really strong steroid, and it was very much I got to a point I tried everything to get back onto using it without the fear that it was going to get inflamed again. But it's definitely worked.
Good.
And definitely, because I can run again.
I know. So anyone looking at supplements, just make sure it's a good brand. Otherwise you are very
much, talk to you, because your knowledge of them is fantastic.
I think we stock supplements. I always say to patients, if it's a cost thing, take them every other day.
Right. Okay.
But take something good.
Yeah.
And ours cost more than but it's an unregulated industry.
Yeah.
So, I had a patient come in the other day. She had a Tesco bag half full
of Tesco supplements.
Crap. They're just from everywhere. And a lot of it is there's overlapping supplements. So you end up with B6 toxicity, and your kidneys are just trying to churn all these there's anti-caking agents. There's all sorts of crap in them, especially the cheaper ones.
Well, it's that old saying, buy cheap, buy twice.
Yeah, there you go. Well,
you just that's it. Do it right the first time.
Yeah. Yeah. But I always say, like, just take less, take it every other day, every 3 days. So we'll have a lot better than buying something from Tesco or even Waitrose. They shouldn't be sending this stuff. I should maybe say that.
And that's why, and I get so much information from you, and I can give you information and like program for you, and you being a coach, but equally you teach me lots and lots in terms of like sort of the natural side of health, which is really important.
Absolutely. We'll get you under chiropractic care one of these days, Fran.
Well, I promise I will book that. I promise.
Get some PBs under your belt.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, yeah, absolutely. In fact,
so what is next?
After this podcast, I'm going to go on your website and I'm going to book for next week. I'm going to.
You're going to start hitting some PBs.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
So what's next for you? You've got an event coming up, don't you?
Yeah, so we fly out at the end of March. We fly out to South Africa to Port Elizabeth for Ironman South Africa. So
you're both doing it.
Yeah, we're both doing it. We're doing it with some friends. And it'll be exciting because the friends that we're doing it with, they're a married couple. They also coach, but Kit, the guy, he's pro triathlete.
Oh, wow.
So it's really interesting seeing his career and his life as a pro. It's massively inspiring, and they're both very inspiring, and they're part of the TTT community. I think like talking about the total tri training community that we're part of, this isn't just for elite athletes. We have athletes that just want to do a marathon, or we have that just want to learn to swim, or they want to just be part of a community. And it's this isn't a big sell at all. We're the biggest triathlon coaching community in the UK. And in terms of the world rankings for triathlon coaching, triathlon clubs, Ironman have them in different divisions. So you've got Division 1, Division 2, and like I suppose if you look at it like the Premiership and the Championship leagues, in football. So the Premiership, like the Division 1, you have the big players in America where they have thousands and thousands of athletes, and they get points from the number of athletes that take part and do well, and they get points to say where they are ranked. And we are actually in Division 2, and we are ranked 4th in the world. And we don't have as many athletes as some of the big coaching companies in the States. But the thing is that we have a really good retention, and we have athletes that achieve amazing things within their triathlon careers, and it's just a really lovely community of like-minded people and who love to do triathlon. I've just come back from a week in Fuerteventura where we do triathlon camp, and we literally go to this place. We do lots of camps across the year, and different coaches go to different ones, and we go to a place called La Playitas, which is a sports resort. You can go and do all manner of different sports. And it's just fantastic. And I think there was about 35 of us, and we bike, swim, run every single day. And it's just brilliant. And it's
Doesn't sound like a holiday.
Not quite a holiday. There's a lot of climbing to be done on the bikes, but it's a great way to start the year.
Yeah.
And it's massively inspiring. And I get inspired from everybody, not just the people that stand on top of podiums or are pro triathletes. I get inspired by, the guys that can't actually do an Ironman because they're injured, but they try the local sprint, or and they're part of the community. It's a hugely inspiring sport, and that because you're inspired by it and you do it and you love it.
I think one of the reasons I started this podcast, because I had started one under a different title actually, and I think as I got older, I just being a chiropractor for 20 odd years now, you see how some people live, and health is so important. I think it is like the bare bones of a beautiful life. Like you can do anything if you're healthy. Yeah. Like you said, even before, if you can't rub two pennies together, if you're healthy, you can still enjoy that life. Like,
of course you can.
Take anyone's life. It doesn't matter how much money they have or how much stuff they have. It's just, if you're healthy mentally, physically, life is beautiful. Like you can do anything.
Yeah, there's that. There's a saying, isn't there? When you eventually, go up into the big grey sky, you don't want to go in pristine. Yeah,
you don't want to go up on a grey day.
You don't want to go in pristine condition. You want to like handbrake
battered and
to it with like worn out brake pads, and knowing that you've had a really good ride and you've really enjoyed yourself and you've made the most of it, and like take every opportunity, and that doesn't necessarily have to be a sporting opportunity, but
No.
just make a difference. And like life is, your Monday to Friday life, and then your weekend life is, it's very much dictated by society. It's 9 to 5. It's and it's this, for the majority of people, it can be the same old, time and time again. But intersperse that with different things that ignite your passions and ignite your spirit for adventure, or just try things that are different and that are new, because you just never know. You might fall upon the one thing in life that becomes your absolute passion. And that certainly happened for me. And like, it's not because I'm lucky, it's just that I just try different things.
There was somebody I was listening the other day, and they said I was able to be careful with what I said about depression, but I'm not a psychiatrist or trained in any way, shape, or form in this area. But they say depression is often just lack of purpose. So you've lost your way. And I think when you try different things, even as an adult, I think we stop trying and learning different things and doing different things. As a child, everything's new. So they're not putting huge pressure on learning a new language or learning to bike. Like, they go on a bike, they're going to learn, it's just they might fall 100 times before they get on.
Yeah, absolutely. And very, very different. One of the things that I do is I think I'm allowed to tell you this, but and you probably know, I sit as magistrate in court. It's a voluntary role that I do, and it's very, very interesting. And you see all shapes and forms that come before you. And one of the things that I did during my training was that you had to visit prison, because ultimately sometimes we send people to prison in the line of our role as a magistrate. And I visited 2 prisons. I visited one in Leeds, which was a Cat B prison, which is a man's prison, and I visited the young offenders. And when I went to the Cat B prison, and I'm fairly black and white, and I think I'm quite resilient, and I get on with it, and I'm not woe is me. If life deals me a bad card, I deal with it. I don't burden anyone with it, and I get on with it, and I find a way around it. Maybe that's the military in me, probably is. And I went to this Cat B prison, and it was desperately sad. I just felt there was no hope, absolutely no hope. And prison should be about rehabilitation and rehabilitating these, but it was just a horrendous experience. And I was in there for 3 hours, and I couldn't wait to get out. And then I went to the young offenders, and they were young men up to the age of 18. And it was run very differently. And I felt that there was hope. And I said to the governor at the time, I said, 2 weeks ago, I was in the man's prison in Leeds, and I just felt there was no hope. I said, I feel like there's a sense of hope here. There's a sense that these young guys can actually make a difference in their life. I said, what's your secret? Why is it so different? And he just looked me straight in the eye, and he said, I'll tell you what it is. It's sports. We engage these young men in sports, in team sports, where they have to work as a team, they have to communicate, they have to listen, they have to follow rules, they have to play by the rules, otherwise they get red carded. They have to deal with success, they have to deal with their anger, their frustration. He said, and it gives them an amazing purpose, and something that the majority of them have never experienced in life. And I thought that was so interesting. And you have to have purpose in your life. And you have to experience that. So that was just, you have to have a purpose, and you've got to have hope that actually, if things aren't great, go out there and change them.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't need.
That's so interesting what you say about sport, because in the state system they are axing it. Like, it's just, and they keep, this whole problem with the NHS. And I mean, if you look at kids now, your kids are older, but I mean, just the health statistics of young kids is just so grotesque in a developed country. It's really bad. And one of the things they don't do, and like, my kids have always done sport, but it is just, it's shocking the
level of the lack of it.
And I don't even think there is sport at sixth form now in the state sector. I don't think there's any.
I mean, it for me, physical education should be up there with
With math and English, 100%.
100%. It's a no-brainer for me. But then if you look at our education system, compared to the Scandinavian education system or even the American education system, it hasn't changed in years. The way that we test children is still the same. It's archaic.
Why should a young boy, especially, like, because boys' brains develop later.
I'm sorry, maybe.
In terms of, but why are they teaching them phonics at 4? Seriously. Like in Scandinavian countries, they're on balance beams, they're turning, they're twisting. Their entire school system is completely different. And it's actually to prime the brain to be ready to learn.
Yeah, and I mean, and also, and maybe people might disagree with me here, and I feel quite passionate, and this is perhaps going a little bit off the topic, but with your children and resilience and so on and so forth, the way that we test children at the end of their school career, so they have 2 years of studying for their GCSEs, and then they are tested over a 2-3 hour period for each individual subject for a 2-year period of work with no chance to reference during that exam. And so, sorry, that was my husband again trying to ring me. So it's fine. And so it's just, in this day and age, I can't get my head round why, and it's the same for A levels. So you have this solid period of work for 3 2.5 hour tests at the end of it. Now, on the morning of that test, your dog could have died, or you could have been in an incident in the car on the way to it, so your mindset's not quite in it. And some children cope better under exam conditions. Doesn't mean they're any more bright than the child that, suffers with a little bit of anxiety over exams, and they don't present themselves the same in an exam situation. For me, children should be tested continually. If you're going to test a child, test them continually over the period of that 2 years, not at the end. And we've put our children in these ridiculous situations that are not in no way, shape or form in your working life now. If you needed to go and find something out about new methodology in chiropractic in your medicine that you do, you wouldn't be testing. You'd go and you'd research it and you'd gather your information before you practice. To me, it's a lazy system that hasn't been reformed. And it needs to be reformed. Anyway, I'm going a little bit off.
But you're absolutely right. I think a lot of things need to be reformed. I was listening to I was news that there was something on Facebook or something, but they were talking like they're changing everything in America, aren't they? But they're like, we are going to start introducing AI tools. We're going to start teaching AI because that's next.
Future.
Yes, and if it's not taught in schools, like we've got to get with the times here. It's just it's ridiculous. And the education system is so archaic.
Our education system is unbelievably archaic. And our best friends live in the States, and their son is he would be the equivalent of lower 6 now. And he has to get credits and points that get him into the college that he wants to go to, university that he wants to go to. But he's measured on that throughout these next 2 years. And that's the way to do it, surely. That's got to be a better way for children.
We used to have, because I'm from Canada, we used to have exams along the way, and there would be weighted maybe 40 to 60%. I can't remember exactly. And then your final exam would be a large percentage, but not over 50%. I don't remember it being. I remember being nervous about them. You'd have to study. I used to cram everything at the end. But it was definitely not the majority of your mark in that one exam.
No,
you would be tested along the way.
You'd be tested along the way, and that's how it should be, really.
Yeah,
absolutely. You don't need to have when you're doing all those subjects to retain all that at such a young age and be able to recount it in such a short period of time. It's just not. We don't, in this age where if you ask me something about being a chiropractor, I could find the answer out immediately via Google.
ChatGPT.
I don't have to remember it, but I could find it out.
So and I think that's how their brains work now too. They're like, this information is at my fingertips. Why do I have to regurgitate? Like, the world is so different. It is so different.
Yeah, it's so different. And like at university now, a lot of them do these 24-hour essays where you get given a title and you've got 24 hours to research it and go and put it in. And actually, that's perhaps a fairer way of doing it, you know, in my mind anyway.
Yeah.
But
Oh, the world's just so different from when we were younger. And a lot of it, like one of my patients is taking 18 months out. He's taking his two boys. I think they're like 7 and 5 or something. And they are going around the world. They're doing house swaps for 18 months, probably trying to escape this government for a while. But they are, sorry. But I'd like to go
your
with
podcast.
them.
You're allowed to say,
can I come? But yeah, they're taking 18 months because he can run his business from his laptop. Like you can do that 20 years, and his kids are going around the world for 18 months. Incredible.
Incredible. Absolutely.
I just say to the kids, like, stop, I don't think my kids whinge very much. I think they're quite resilient. I think I kind of had the same kind of, maybe not as military as you, but same kind of, a few hard knocks are good for you. Just, put your pants back, put your big girl pants on, your big boy pants on and just move on. But I always think there's like the opportunities you have are huge.
Yeah.
And it's really time to get excited about the future instead of kind of.
Yeah. And also I think your daughter had a gap year before university.
Yeah.
I think I'm very much the boys when they finish university, if they want to go and travel the world before they settle down to a job, because let's face it, they're going to be working for a lot longer. They're not retiring as what we did. No. Definitely not. And I think that is, go and experience that, and who knows, something wonderful. Hopefully they don't settle down in Australia and live a life millions of miles away from us. But if they do, they do. And it goes back to, you've got to give your kids wings to fly.
No, I do hope they come back. Maybe not to Yorkshire.
Well, I just said to the boys,
just to this country.
I just said, if you both meet someone and it's in Australia, if you meet someone in Australia, can you meet someone in Australia, and then we'll move to Australia so we can be close to you?
No, I said if she meets somebody in Australia, it must be a Brit and you must come back.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
I don't want them that far. No,
but yeah, life is about challenge, and life is about enjoying that challenge and letting the seeds grow from that challenge, and then all of a sudden they grow into big oak trees.
Oh, that's sweet. Well, I just want to thank you. I started coaching with you in October, I believe. And yeah, it was interesting because we went skiing at Christmas and the kids are like, oh, you're skiing well. And I'm like, I'm fitter than I've been I'm older, obviously, than I've ever been, but I am in probably the best shape that I've been in since having Harris. Before I got pregnant with Harris, who's 10, I consider myself in pretty good shape. But yeah.
And you are in great shape. And the difference with coaching, I think now, and the way that the coaching world has moved on, is there's so much science behind it now, and the importance of the types of run that we do, the types of bike sessions we do, the types of swims that we do. I'm talking triathlon focused here, the strength work that we implement in amongst that. And it's not a secret. It's not just thrown out there and we hope that it just comes together on the race. It's really specific. And the importance of the slow runs, and the importance of the tempo runs, and the importance of the heart rates, and looking at our lactate threshold levels, the LT1 and the LT2, and looking at the relationship between them, and trying to push that LT1 up for our endurance activities that we do. And it's fascinating stuff. So it's not a surprise to me as a coach that your fitness has got better, because I can see it in the numbers that come through, and I can see it in your fatigue, your fitness, which creates what's called your form. And I can see it in your numbers because your heart rate doesn't lie. Your brain might sometimes lie in terms of how you're feeling, but your heart rate and your physiology tell me the true story about your fitness. So it doesn't surprise me. And you put the work in, then, and you do it. If you do it as you are programmed to do it, you will get fitter and you'll get to your race in optimum performance, unless you've got an injury or and of course we talk about the mental side and the preparation. There's so much more to it than just the training. We haven't even talked about nutrition, which is huge, and that is your fourth discipline, and where to put your game, where to put your head when you're racing on race day, and what to focus on, and some little tricks around that get you through the race. But yeah, it doesn't surprise me that you're fit. I mean, you are. I mean, you're a great runner. You really run. In fact, we've got to book our next run.
We do. Yeah.
We do.
Yeah. I just want to say thank you.
It's been lovely. I mean, gosh, where did an hour and 3/4 go? I mean, frankly, we could talk for Britain, maybe.
We talked for about a lot of different topics, which is kind of what this is all about. Yeah.
You know what? And if somebody that's listening to this just takes 2 words away with them from me, and that's accountability and challenge.
Yeah.
Give yourself a challenge, make yourself accountable in whatever walk of life and whatever you're passionate about.
And do you listen to Tony Robbins? I listen to lots of different people.
Yeah,
he's a huge motivator.
I don't.
He's very American, very loud. But he does say the thing that makes people happy is growth. And it comes to that challenge and that accountability. It's the same thing, but you can just become stale, I think. And then you become miserable because I think the challenges are really,
like
especially in midlife. We've got decades left. Like, what are we going to do with this time?
Yeah. And actually you mentioned, and I'm no psychiatrist, and you talk about depression and so on and so forth. And I see a lot of, it's a bit like slapping that plaster on it, isn't it? You go, I'm feeling a little bit low, and people go on antidepressants and all the rest, and it's masking some. And actually, I wonder how many people that are in that position lack challenge and accountability in some aspect of their life and purpose. And it would be interesting if somebody that like really struggles, if they took on like a challenge, how it would change their mindset, how it make them feel. Yeah. And do I suffer from depression? Thankfully, no, I don't.
Yeah.
Is that because I do what I do? Possibly, potentially. I believe it is. Yeah. Medically, I don't know, but I believe that it's because I challenge myself. I'm accountable. I try not to procrastinate, and I make the most of the short time on this planet that I'm going to be here.
But you also have a purpose. You have a purpose to your day. Every day has a purpose.
I get up, I make bed,
I
brush my teeth, and I get on. And I can honestly, hand on heart say, I never ever turn the television on during the day.
No, neither do I.
Often, not even at night, really. We don't. Because we're all training, because Chris has to do a lot of his training at night, and so I will go and do a second session with him at night.
Watch Netflix while you're on your bike.
Yeah, I'll do a little bit of that, but I fill my day with so much.
My mom was we grew up in Canada. It was like minus 15, 20 some days. I mean, you couldn't even open the back door sometimes because it was boarded up with snow. But she was like, I said it on another podcast. My nickname in the house is Taliban. I hate it. Like, especially during the day. Like, I don't mind at night to watch a movie or something, but during the day, I just really don't like it. It's like not making my bed. I just feel
Sometimes, and in the house during the day, like today, I've got the house. Chris is in London. Sometimes I like the silence of the house.
Yeah,
because I can get into my own head, and that's if I sit and I'll do my programming, I have to do that in silence so I can put all of my attention. I can't have things going on peripherally. Make sure I've walked the dog, and I like to focus.
There's no clutter at all in your house, is there, Fran?
No, there's no clutter in my house. Definitely not. Because if there's no clutter in my house, there's no clutter in my head.
That's what they say.
Yeah, it's true though, isn't it?
Yeah. That's Marie Kondo got her. I mean, that's what she does, isn't it? Clutter in your house.
Clean. Well, we say it's clean lines. Clean lines. Life is a lot easier with clean lines, and I know people have a lot of other issues, and actually Chris and I are no different. We have other issues that go on in our life. I don't burden anybody else with them. We deal with them internally, and we get through them. Because it goes back to what that old lady said to me one time. She says, nobody's really bothered about your issues because they've got their own issues. They've got their own issues to deal with.
And everyone does. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, I think I will never become a victim. And maybe the military has taught me this, because you experience things in the military that the majority of people in life will never experience. And when you experience those things, you can either let it shape your life afterwards, or you can move on from it. And you can either let it shape your life negatively or positively. And I try, and I think we do as a team, Chris and I and the boys, to shape things positively. When life gives you lemons, make lemonade.
Yeah. It's interesting. My mom, I interviewed her. She was one of my first podcast hosts, our guests. And she was a war baby in Holland. So she was 3 when the war ended. And she remembers, and I didn't know this, probably make me tear up, but she remembers holding a dish rag and sucking the water out because she was so hungry. And I guess, like, yeah, it does actually make me well up. But like to know that your mom almost starved in the war, like it's a reality that we don't know what hard is.
No,
like we just don't know what hard.
So
and she
true.
lost her dad, and at 3, and what she remembers even from young child is just, but she's probably the most grateful. She's 83, and her dying wish, which she's not dying, she's just getting old, but she said, while I'm still healthy and able, can we just all go on holiday? So we're all going to Brazil in April. My sister lives there, so we're all getting together and renting a couple boats. So it'd be amazing. But that is her wish while she's still well and active.
I love it.
She still skis and hikes and everything. But you don't know what's going to happen in a year's time. She might, I don't know. She might not be here. She might, I don't know.
She's never
she
been
might
a
get
victim.
sick. No, she's never. And I think it's that resilience of hard. And she just and she had cancer, stage 3, 4 cancer 13 years ago. And it's just every day is a gift to her. And she's a remarkable woman. Like she's, it's incredible. She's such an inspiration to us.
I know we're sort of pushed for a little bit of time, but I briefly mentioned my mum, who, a bit like you, and I can tell, but with the passion that you talk about your mum, my mum was my absolute best friend rock. But not just
tattoo,
to me,
don't you?
Yeah, not just to me, but to my 2 sisters as well, but also to her son-in-laws. I mean, all 3 son-in-laws adored her. Like she was just amazing. And it was really, well, in 2010, she was in a horrific car accident. She got hit head on by an overtaking car on the wrong side of the road. And her injuries were so severe, she broke both her feet, both her knees, both her femurs, both her arms, ribs, vertebrae, sternum. The only thing that was fine was her face. She was Yorkshire Air Ambulance, whisked her to Leeds General Infirmary. Just one of those injuries was enough to be fatal, but she just wasn't ready to go, my mum. And how, they got her into hospital and many operations, and intensive care for weeks. She came through it. And one of the first things she said, my dad and my mum had a motorhome, and they travelled all over Europe in it, riding their bikes. And the first thing she said to the surgeon, Mr. Agondo, I'll never forget his name, and she said, will I be able to ride my bike again? She was in the high dependency ward at this time, so she'd come out of ICU. And he said, I see no reason why not. He said, but it'll be a lot of hard work. And she went, right. And she learned to walk again. Yes, you could tell she was disabled.
Yeah.
Yes, you could tell that she'd had some form of accident by the way she walked. But she rode her bike again. And she went off, and we went and joined them in Germany on the Moselle with the boys when they were little, riding their bikes. And she was never, ever a victim. And then sadly, she had a lot of internal trauma, and she developed a rare form of cancer, which the belief is now that it was caused from the impact and the trauma. And even to the day she died, she never complained. She was just like absolutely resilient. She was given a prognosis of 3 months, and she lived for another 2 years. And if somebody could have told me on that night of the accident, you're actually going to get another 9 years with your mum, I'd have bit their hand off. And honestly, I would, because I never thought that we'd get that. So maybe that's why I'm never a victim, because what my mum went through was horrific, but God, she did it with such humility, and she was inspiring, absolutely. So like, life is shit at times.
Yes.
It really is. And if anyone's listening to this and thinking, you know, like, my life's shit, every life can be turned around. Make lemonade with them lemons. And just make lemonade with them lemons, and be positive and be happy. Because when you give a smile, it comes back tenfold.
They're infectious.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much on that note, talking about our beautiful mums.
Yeah, she was.
You can see where you get your resilience from then.
Oh,
I don't think it's just from the military. I think it's also from your mum, and probably from your father as well.
She never got to see me do Ironman.
Oh, she's watching.
Well, you've seen it. And so on my wrist, well, you've seen it. I have my Ironman tattoo. And underneath my Ironman tattoo is a feather. And that's my mum. And I am not spiritual in the slightest. I have to point this out. I'm very black and white, and it's like, it's not for me. But when mum was poorly, I saw feathers everywhere. It was the weirdest thing. And it makes me laugh, because it's just not me. And so my mum pins up my Ironman tattoo. So when I'm on my bike racing, I've got my hands on my tri bars. It's on, for those, obviously you can't see because you're on a podcast, it's on my, you know, on the inner side of my wrist. I look at that all the time when I'm racing, and I talk to my mum all the time when I'm racing, and she underpins it, and she like gets me through. So even when it's really bad and I'm questioning every life choice, and I'm 13 miles into the marathon, I look at my mum and I think, I'm fine.
Oh, she's watching you.
She's watching me. She's always in the room.
Everyone's got a spiritual bone in them.
Yeah, that is, honestly, that was the weirdest thing. So, but other than that, I'm very black and white. I'm sorry.
It's okay to let that spiritual side be shown every once in a while.
Oh, brilliant. Well, I've really enjoyed chatting to you.
Oh, you too. We'll get a run in.
Yeah, we'll get a run in next week if you like.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Sounds good.
I'll send you a message. All right. Thank you so much for your time. If anyone wants to get in touch with Fran for coaching, obviously you do all sorts, you know, from your shortest sprint to your Ironman. If you're interested, her Fran's details will be in the show notes.
Oh, brilliant. And just for anybody that is interested in that, it's not, you have to be some superhuman person to do it. I mean, the best way you can get an athlete to be the best version of themselves is by communicating with them and making them believe that anything is possible, and like, nothing is impossible.
No. And you'll hold them, you know, she'll hold you
accountable. Yeah, absolutely.
You'll get there.
All right then, my love. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
See you later, darling.
Bye.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.